Fortnite is one of the most profitable games on the market today, but the craziest thing is that Epic Games, the company that created Fortnite, actually makes most of its money from something entirely different. That's right, Epic Games actually makes the majority of its profit from a gaming engine or a proprietary physics software that they've created themselves, which is called Unreal Engine. But one important thing to note is that Unreal Engine isn't just about video games. Unreal Engine is a physics software that can emulate real life scenarios without them ever actually happening. And over the last couple of years, this software has improved drastically, and the computers that can run the software have improved quite a bit as well, making this new innovation a game changer in the world of technology. Combine all of this with the fact that Unreal Engine is free to use unless you are making $1 million or more in profit every year using the software. You have the perfect recipe for simulation to be used everywhere in the world of business. And that's exactly what we'll be talking about in today's video, the future of simulation. Now, for most of my life, when I thought of simulations, I've always thought of gathering a bunch of data or throwing numbers into some software that spits out a graph or some sort of figure in order to simulate a result. Now, what we're talking about in this case is a physical simulation. We're talking about objects that are being simulated in an environment to see what happens. And the main reason why anyone would want to simulate anything is one really big thing: money. See, when businesses can simulate something before it ever happens, it allows them to quickly run hypothetical experiments and model different outcomes with very little expense. And ultimately, it can allow you to visualize a scenario without it ever actually taking place, which allows businesses to be so much more profitable in coming out with new products and services because they can run experiments without ever actually having to physically do it in real life. And that's what leads us into the first use case we'll talk about, which is autonomous vehicles. So one of the main reasons I'm actually making this video is a really good friend of mine sent me this article a couple weeks ago, and it talked about how Tesla is using Unreal Engine to simulate corner cases to train its Autopilot algorithm for Cybertrucks and any of its self-driving cars. So really what they're doing is they've always had their Autopilot algorithms that have been trained using test cars that drive out and about in the real world, but what they're doing instead to further improve the Autopilot features is they're simulating a Cybertruck or a Tesla driving around in this imaginary 3D world and testing all these different scenarios in order to build the algorithm, make it stronger, which is crazy because none of this is actually taking place in real life, yet it's making a product better in the end and making the self-driving system and the autopilot. And it doesn't stop there. When we can simulate real life scenarios without them ever taking place, imagine a system that models different scenarios and automatically adjusts the flow of traffic just to account for any scenario that might take place. And what I mean by this is, if an accident happens on one street, imagine a system that can simulate what it would look like for all the traffic to be directed one way versus another, and then it automatically picks the better outcome. And as more and more technology starts to spread into the world of cars and vehicles, we'll find highways and intersections with sensors, cars with sensors, and this whole entire infrastructure of sensors that comes together and can be used to simulate different outcomes and then feed algorithms that make smart intersections, which are going to prevent traffic or accidents, and even more safe and effective autopilot on self-driving cars. Next, if we think about healthcare, we'll actually be able to simulate particles and proteins that interact in a human body without that ever actually taking place, because again, the physics engine is simulating what would normally happen in real life using principles of physics. So now medical researchers and practices are able to come up with brand new treatments and understand diseases in a way they never have been able to before, because now they can simulate and model what's happening on a molecular level using a physics engine instead of having to make it happen in real life. It's basically like a way to experiment without it ever actually taking place. And even on the side of medical education, a lot of medicine is understanding molecular structures, and most of the time you've had to learn it in 2D textbooks where you can't really see the full picture. But if you use one of these softwares that shows an object in 3D, you can rotate around that molecule or that structure, and people studying medicine can learn it way faster and understand it on such a deeper level just because there's an engine running in the background to help create this new experience. There's so many more use cases of Unreal Engine. One of my favorites is live event lighting. Now, if you think about a festival or a big concert where they have all of these stages and lighting structures that take days, if not weeks, to build, when you use Unreal Engine, you can actually simulate the event beforehand and test a light show or a concert before you ever actually put together the entire set, which means you can make adjustments and fine-tune the entire performance without ever having to physically construct any setup. So this will make the end product so much better because you can actually create the outcome and test and find out what you want to do before you actually build it in real life. And the cool thing too is as these simulations get more and more lifelike, you'll be able to sell shows before they happen. Let's say it's a new music festival in a venue that's never been held before. You can actually create a simulation and kind of give people an idea of what that event's going to look like, even though it's never happened, and create this video compilation as if it had. And then there's use cases from air traffic control companies managing air traffic in a much more efficient way, and architecture and interior design services being able to visualize a building or a room before it's ever being built in incredible detail, making the entire process more efficient. So you can see how all of these different use cases are centered around one thing, and that's time or money. Because when the process of creating is able to be vastly simplified, or the time it takes to create something or understand something is drastically reduced, it in the end creates this benefit monetarily. People can output more in less time. And so I think we'll see this technology start to be used in mining, physics research, logistics, shipping, and so much more. But one quick crazy idea before we close out here is this concept of battling realities. Now, it's my theory that as these simulations start to get more and more high quality and our separation from technology decreases, it's going to be difficult to separate the real reality from the virtual reality. And I know this sounds a little bit far off in the distance, so the analogy I'll use is our phones. Nowadays, people are glued to their phones, they use social media, and it's basically another reality that we just experience from the screens on our phone. But if we can experience that reality with a 3D environment and feel like we're actually there and these simulations get more and more lifelike, then it starts to be a lot less distinguishable from real life. So entertainment, work, adventure, socializing, all of these different areas of life, they're bound to be impacted in one way or another thanks to softwares like Unreal Engine. So if you're interested in keeping up with the latest technology and staying in touch with how technology is going to impact different areas of life, we do have a free Tech Powered Leaders Slack community, which I'll link below in the description. And that's a cool community to join if you're interested in keeping up to date with the latest trends. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned a little bit more about how Unreal Engine is going to totally change the way the world works, and most importantly, how a game like Fortnite, seemingly so simple on the surface, is totally revolutionizing the way that the world works. If you like this video, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe for more. Cheers.